I am a puzzle lover, and one of my daily habits is to tackle the New York Times Wordle puzzle. I'm not sure if there's any Wordle fans out there. Hey. So it was a bit of fun today. I thought we'd start off with a little puzzle. An image is going to come up on the screen, and I want you to stare at the three images and try and work out what the connection is between these three images. Two are more straightforward, one's a little bit more tricky. The connection is secret. Secret. For those of you who are still puzzled, it's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets the image is taken from. Today's talk is called Top Secret. Top Secret. We're in the middle of a series called The Jesus Way, based around the Sermon on the Mount. And this is the Jesus Manifesto. It's the Jesus Way. It's probably the most radical and misunderstood teaching of all time. And today we're going to look at a secret, a top secret, that has the potential to revolutionize the way in which we live. So we're going to read a chunk from Matthew chapter 6. And as we do it, I want you to look out for three words and one phrase which keep recurring. And the words are these: when, secret, and reward. And the phrase I want you to watch out for is this: they have received their reward in full. So Matthew chapter 6, beginning at verse 1. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do, in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Verse 16. When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. This passage has three main themes: giving, praying, and fasting. And each section contains some practical advice. But all three sections are linked together by this refrain: when, secret, and reward. So our first word is when. You see, Jesus starts by making a critical assumption. And it's this, that my followers will definitely be practicing these three habits: giving to the needy, praying, and fasting. This is not for the spiritual, it's for the normal followers. Jesus doesn't say if you give, he says when you give. When and not if. So of course, the question we've got to ask ourselves is, are we doing this? Jesus views it as being normal. And if we're doing it, who knows? Because the second word used regularly is this: secret. And I called this talk Top Secret because Jesus is adamant that these practices should be secret practices. And Jesus has pretty strong warnings for those who want their piety to be seen publicly. And he speaks to the followers and says, do not announce your giving with trumpets. And it grieves me that all over the church, across this nation today, we will have politicians who will be ignoring that all the time. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. In other words, as far as is realistically possible, let your giving be in secret. And note here too that Jesus isn't talking about giving to the church. He's not talking about tithing. He's talking about giving to the needy. This is the Jesus way. And Jesus goes on to talk about his second top secret, which is prayer, saying this: but when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. So in other words, pray in secret. Don't waffle. Don't babble. Don't drone on. Pray simply. Pray secretly. Pray in solitude. You see, solitude matters deeply to Jesus. And I think we, the church, have forgotten the power of solitude. And it's wrong to think that solitude is for the introverts and for the monks. It's for us. And I love what the author and pastor Tyler Staton says about this. Jesus seems to value solitude at least as much as activity, maybe even more. He fights for solitude, slipping off in the night or early morning to be alone with the Father. Solitude, understood biblically, refers not to an outer quiet, but an inner stillness. The pursuit of solitude is not simply a little bit of alone time, but the recovery of an internal quiet and stillness. It is through this quiet that I can hear the Spirit's whisper. Without solitude, I cannot receive the quiet from which I live, move, and find my being in God. Solitude is a costly business. Every mum with young kids will tell you solitude is a precious thing. But solitude enables attention. And attention is the purest form of love. And loving means choosing to be sacrificially present. So Jesus calls us to be sacrificially present, to prioritize solitude. Because he longs for our attention. He longs for us to be physically, sacrificially present, because that's the purest form of love. I wonder what your life would be like if it was 10% slower and you had 10% more solitude. Because I think that's the Jesus way. So our third top secret practice that Jesus expects is fasting. He says this, but when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father. Now, let me be honest, I have a love-hate relationship with fasting. If I'm even more honest, I have a hate-hate relationship with fasting. And I have to confess that some of my initial failed fasting attempts have been more like a hunger strike in a futile attempt to shame Jesus into doing what I want. And I can tell you another secret. It doesn't work. And sometimes we don't fast because we want more of God. If we're honest, we fast because we want God to give us what we want. And that's not surrender. That's negotiation. Fasting isn't a technique to get God to obey us. It's a practice of learning to deny our desires so we start to obey faster and fuller. Fasting makes us sacrificially present before God, as attention is the purest form of love. So we've got secret giving, secret praying, secret fasting. And we also have secret motivation. Because Jesus specifically praises secret devotion. But Jesus wasn't opposed to public prayer, or public generosity, or corporate fasting. His issue was about motivation, about doing good in order to be seen to be doing good. You see, secrecy exposes our motives because there's no social reward. There's no applause. There's no spiritual status gained by secrecy. So I suppose the big question we've got to ask ourselves is, would I do this if nobody knew except God? Because public devotion is a bad substitute for private devotion. But Jesus didn't reject public expressions of love. A few weeks ago, Kevin spoke from Matthew 5:16, where Jesus said, "Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father." You see, the issue isn't just public or private. The issue is, why do you need the affirmation? Jesus seemed to have very little patience for those whose spirituality was performed for an audience. And if I do something good publicly because I want people to admire me, I've turned devotion into self-promotion. And Jesus simply says they have received their reward in full. And I was reflecting this week on that phrase of Jesus, they have received their reward in full. Because I think it could be updated for this digital age. Now, I'm a runner. Not a very good one, not a very fast one, but a reasonably consistent one. I plod pretty well. And I am on Strava. Now, for all the uninitiated, Strava is Instagram for runners. And if you get serious about Strava, which is very easy to do, when you start to go for a run on Strava, you don't just run. You run with purpose. You choose the most scenic route. You make sure that your GPS map will look impressive. And you push through that last kilometer. Because you know exactly what you're going to do when you finish the run. You're going to upload it. Morning 10K, new PB. And then you wait. 3 likes. Refresh. 7 likes. And by lunchtime, you checked Strava 10 times to make sure that everyone fully understands the suffering you have gone through. And finally, you're there, 120 likes, 10 comments, and 8 new followers. And Jesus says, you have received your reward in full. So to all the Gen Zs out there, maxing out on your social media influence, enjoy your followers. You have received your reward in full. And before we get too quick to mock all the wannabe influencers, let's be honest, we are not that different. We may well not be posting our gym workout or our perfect breakfast, but we still want to be noticed. We want people to notice that we are generous. We want people to know that we are serving. We want people to know that we are spiritual. The technology may have changed, but our hearts have not. So we have when, we have secret. Let's dig a little deeper into reward. Because reward is one of the most overlooked aspects of Jesus' teaching. Jesus talks a lot about reward. He doesn't expect that mature spirituality becomes indifferent to reward. In each of the 3 sections we read, giving, prayer, fasting, Jesus rounds up with the same phrase. Your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. There's a reward coming. There's a reward on offer. Jesus promises a reward. Not just here in Matthew 6, in Luke 14, Jesus talked about reward for those you love who cannot repay you. In Matthew 25, Jesus talked about a reward for those who use their talents well. In Matthew 5, Jesus promises a reward who suffer persecution for his sake. There's a reward on offer. So we mustn't dismiss this idea of reward. And it's very easy for us to do so, even in a very spiritual way, because we start saying to ourselves internally, all I'm doing is nothing compared to what Jesus has done for me on the cross. So we end up dismissing reward. And Jesus isn't as fast as we are to dismiss this whole idea of reward. And Jesus recognizes that many of us want reward now. But what Jesus is saying is, if you want applause now, fine. Have your applause. That's your reward. But don't pretend that you're still waiting for a reward from the Father. And Jesus offers us a choice between immediate human reward right now or kingdom reward, the Father's reward. And let's not fall into the trap, as the prosperity gospel often says, that that reward is guaranteed to be material. It may well not be. Jesus outlines the kind of reward he offers. Treasure in heaven, God's approval, being with the Father, inheriting the kingdom, and being with him, becoming like him. You see, the ultimate and most satisfying reward of seeking God may be God himself. And Jesus wants to lead us towards a deeper love in which God becomes more desirable than his gifts. And as we mature, our motivation towards reward may well evolve too. We may well start off with a very simple attitude towards reward, which says, I want God because he gives me good things. And that's not a bad motivation, because he does. But there are better ones. Our attitude may start to grow. I want the life God promises because I trust that his life is better than mine. And that attitude may evolve too into this. I want God himself. Whatever he gives or withholds, I want him. You see, Jesus purifies our desires. He takes that instinct to seek recognition and reward, and he reshapes it. And that's why the secret life matters so much. That's the operating theatre where Jesus does the work in changing our desires. Because Jesus' promise essentially is this: the Father sees, the Father knows, and the Father will reward. I want to come to a close. The key question we have is this: if nobody knows, will you still do it? Will you still be generous if nobody knows? Will you still serve if nobody noticed? Would you still pray if no one thinks you're spiritual? Would you still follow Jesus if nobody is watching? Because eventually the secret life becomes the real life. Because the Father sees, the Father knows, and the Father rewards. And the greatest reward is Jesus himself. I wonder what it would be like if we became the kind of people who don't need the applause because we've discovered something better. And that's the Jesus way. So here's a top secret. When you finally believe that the Father's eyes are enough, you won't need anyone else's approval anymore. Should we pray? Jesus, help us to live for your eyes only. Help us to seek your approval above all. Help shape our attitudes and ambitions so they please you well. And help us to grow well in the secret place. Amen. I know I've made the assumption that everyone here knows Jesus and wants to follow him. That may well not be true. So if you're here today, you know that in your heart of hearts you're not yet a follower of Jesus, then this morning would be a great chance for you to make that decision. And I'd love to chat with you afterwards and to pray with you. But I do want to just take a few minutes for us to process some of this stuff in small groups. And I realize it may seem a bit odd discussing secret practices with others. But sometimes we need to publicly own our inner struggles in order to do well in the secret place. So what I'd love us to do, just for a few minutes, is to break into small groups, 3s or 4s, and have a look at the 2 questions which will come up on the screen, and see if you can work out how we can begin to do this stuff together. If you'd rather just sit for a few minutes on your own in quiet and process this internally, you're absolutely welcome to do that too. So small groups, 3s or 4s, we'll give it maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll come back together and close.